first episode of my UCI Gravel series. In this series, I'll be taking on multiple gravel races all across Europe. So whether you're an experienced gravel racer or a novice like myself, I hope you find these videos both entertaining and insightful. Today's race takes place in the beautiful city of Roden, northeast of the Netherlands. Let me quickly show the bike I'm running today and then we'll quickly move on to the race. As you can see, this is the bike I'm running, Cannondale Topstone 6 from 2021. It has a Shimano GRX 400 group set and I'm running the Specialized Pathfinder Pro 42mm tires. And this is the point where I mount my GoPro so I can get the best footage for you guys. Now let's move on to the race. As you might have noticed, I started all the way in the back of the race. In my age group, male 18 to 35, I ended up starting around place 288 out of the 288 participants. Yeah, I didn't get exactly the best starting position. Apparently, if you want a good spot, you need to show up around 1 hour before the start, but I showed up just 5 minutes before the start of the race, so you can imagine where that got me. The women were also already lined up for their start just behind my starting position. I had two main goals for this race: trying to qualify for the UCI Gravel World Championships, which was quite a stretch to be honest, and a second one, beating one of the pros, although they had a 5-minute head start. Reality hit me pretty quick. As soon as the race started, I realized my first goal was pretty much impossible before I even came across the starting line. The guys at the front took off like rockets and I was left at the back, stuck in this traffic jam you're seeing at this very moment. Those who weren't stuck at the beginning of the race were already creating a large gap to the riders all the way in the back. Anyway, my initial plan was to stick close to the first big guy who seemed to be pushing really hard. And there he was. Trust Guy, as I called him, had a name that inspired confidence, and I figured that he could lead me to a better position. The only problem was, I wasn't warmed up yet, and these guys were already going full gas, putting out some crazy power numbers on their pedals. Nervousness got the best of me at the beginning of the race. I still needed to warm up, and pushing 300 plus watts is not my ideal warm-up strategy. I also needed to gain a little more confidence before attempting any bold moves. At this point I was already struggling to follow the Trust Guy because I wasn't comfortable enough to stay close to his wheel, but I also didn't want him to create a too large gap. No crazy power numbers yet, just finding the rhythm of the race. As time passed, the faster riders began overtaking me, throwing off my qualification plans even further. Note to self, stay humble. I wanted to follow them, but I wasn't comfortable taking the riskier path on the left side of the road, which was sandy and bumpy, which also required way more effort to overtake others. After the first gravel section, we hit a nice paved road section where I felt more at ease. I already lost a lot of time to my competitors, so I decided to put my legs to the test and go for it. And who knows, maybe I was able to find Trust Guy again. My best 20-minute effort is around 360 watts, so you can see that I'm already pushing quite some number. Luckily, the group in front of me wasn't going too crazy, so I was able to close the first of many gaps that needed to be closed. As I caught up with the first group of riders, I started feeling more confident, so I decided to employ my new strategy. Catch a group, catch my breath while following them, bring my heart rate down, and then close the gap to another group. My current aim was to secure a good position in the rankings and just climb up the rating ladder. And here I was just staying at this group for a minute or so, just bringing the heart rate down, catch a little breath, and then when I was feeling good again, I just put on the power to the pedals and tried to go to the next group. here another sharp corner, and you can see that like how far these guys are like going away, and the power numbers I was pushing, so that will basically give you an idea of how hard these guys were hitting and sprinting after every corner. And well, look who we have here. Mr. Trust Guy reappeared, and I managed to get back on his wheel, even though it took me way more effort than when I had been more experienced and stay in this wheel earlier in the race. I managed to get onto his wheel back again. So here I was, just bringing the heart rate down a bit, probably getting some nutrition in, drinking some, getting some food in. And when I was feeling better, I set my sights on catching the next group. Coincidentally, a guy on the orange bike had the same idea, and I happily latched onto his wheel, letting him do the heavy lifting. I think he didn't saw me or something. I don't know why he went like this, but for me it was just perfect. Took me quite some effort to get on the wheel of this guy, because he was literally sprinting like it was the last 100 meters of the race, but I managed to get onto his wheel, and I was just more than happy to stay there. Apparently there were more riders in the group that had the same idea, and these two fast riders were just flying by. So I took advantage of the situation and hopped into their wheels, feeling all good and relaxed. The only downside was that I had never ridden at speeds above 35 an hour on unpaved roads in a group, let alone trusting my life to keep up with two other riders. But I decided to follow the wheel in front of me, believing everything would be fine, and luckily it was. During this period, reality hit me once again. The dream of qualifying for the UCI Gravel World Championships seemed to drift further away. To qualify, I needed to be in the top 25% of guys in my age category, which meant I had to secure a position around 72 out of 288 riders. Seeing how fast the guys at the back were going and how few riders we were catching, it made me wonder just how fast those at the front were racing. For the next few minutes, the three of us took turns leading back until we reached the dreaded section we all worried about. And this was the bottleneck that awaited us. We were laughing and cracking some jokes, because we knew this section was coming, but we didn't know it was there was such a large queue. Some guy saying that you were faster if you're going through the water. So all fun and games at this point. We knew this section was coming, and we knew we didn't want to be stuck at the back of this section. Unfortunately, that meant waking up earlier, so that's something for next time. Though, from my perspective, being in this position allowed me to catch up to many riders at once, boosting my overall position, so for me it turned out pretty good. Unfortunately, it was still far from enough to secure a qualifying spot, as the front guys continued to pull away and probably weren't stuck as long as we were in this section. Despite the friendly banter and laughter among the riders during this brief break, once we were back on the bike, it was full-on race pace again. I find myself trailing behind Pink Olay, who did me a huge favor in the previous section, right before the bottleneck bridge. I suggested we go to the left side of the road to catch up a few riders, pushing myself to put in a significant effort and just try to climb up the rating ladder. when looking at my heart rate, I think this is the highest effort I pulled throughout the race, because I think here my heart rate will go to 187, and the highest heart rate I have seen in the whole year in 2023 was 188. So it's almost as high as I've seen throughout the year. Unfortunately, when I look back, I didn't see Pink Olay guy anymore, so I'm not sure whether he didn't hear my message or whether he wasn't able to catch on my wheel. But yeah, it was just me alone bridging the gap. As I caught up to the next group, we started taking turns in this group, and yeah, I just wanted to bring my heart rate a little bit down again, take a breath. I was starting feeling a little bit exhausted already. Yeah, then we just started taking turns, and whenever it was my turn at the front, I saw it as an opportunity to close yet another gap. On all these sections, just when there was a little bit of paved road, I immediately started drinking and eating, because yeah, I wasn't feeling comfortable enough on the gravel sections to start eating and drinking. And yeah, so here it's almost my turn to be at the front, and I figured I might as well make the most of it by closing the distance to another group of riders. For the next 10 minutes or so, it will be just me closing a few more gaps, climbing up the rating ladder with some commentary. So feel free to keep watching, or you can also just skip this section and move on to the exciting finale. As you can see, I'm almost back at another group. It took me quite some effort, so it's now time to take a brief rest and get a little nutrition in and stay behind some other guys their wheel. After giving myself a brief rest and bringing my heart rate back to around 160, I felt ready to tackle a few more gaps. However, the riders ahead seemed so far away, and as the race progressed, the gaps only seemed to grow larger. So the next riders are pretty far in the distance already. I know this is going to be tough, but it's probably doable, and it's the best shot I have in ending at a better position. Here I'm going past a rider who's probably dropped from the group I'm trying to catch. And here I'm going to overtake just another rider. At this point I'm also learning to sprint after every turn. And this is just basically going hands on the hoods, full aero mode, and try to take the group in front of me. A little deep sand again, but now they are getting really close, and I practice a lot riding on sandy beaches, and I have quite some experience in riding in deep sand, so I think this section was really in my favor. And here I just couldn't really catch a breath. I really wanted to, but the sand was just too deep and I couldn't really get a good draft from this guy. And here you see what's happening again. I find myself exactly at the dropped guy of the group again. So now I have to take a big effort again to catch the front of the group I was trying to catch. They are coming closer, but not as fast as I was hoping for. But then after a few last pushes, I find myself into the wheel of these guys again, and I can finally take some breath, and exactly at the road section, so that's perfect. Found myself staying with this group for a few minutes, got my nutrition in, got the heart rate back around 170, and then it was time to close yet another gap. Not sure if you remember Red Shores Blue Jersey guy from the previous section, but he's going to play an interesting role in closing this gap. During the race I saw riders in the distance, but they were so far away that the camera couldn't capture them. This is taking me a very big effort again, and I was probably thinking here that it would most likely be one of the last gaps I would be closing this race. Here I just go a little bit too far to the left, and there is Red Shorts Blue Jersey guy, and he is flying by out of the blue as I don't know why, because we could have worked together. It was just not possible for me to grab on his wheel. Here I had to put in a high effort to go overtake that guy. And Red Shorts Blue Jersey is just gone. Luckily here is some deep sand section again, which is favorable to me for some kind of reason. I weigh only 72 kilograms, so that might have something to do with it, but I absolutely don't know for sure, so please let me know if you do know this. And here it was, almost back at the group. So in the next section I was riding with a group of around 10 other riders. I had no idea what the strength of them was, and I had the great idea to just close another gap. this is one of the last gaps I closed. Closing the last gap was tough as the group was nowhere to be seen, but I gave it my all. I was sitting in a pretty aero position with my hands on the hoods, leveraging my background as a triathlete. Because of this background, I'm able to push almost the same power numbers in an aero position as in a normal position. At the moment, I own two bikes, one gravel bike, the one I'm currently riding, and a TT bike. I live in the Netherlands, which is mostly as flat as it can get, so owning a super light climbing bike wouldn't be of much use. Also, the gravel bike I'm riding is pretty light. I'm riding a Cannondale Topstone 6 from 2021 and the weight is approximately 8.2 kilograms. It is probably even lighter if I swap my gravel wheels to the other set of road wheels I own. So when I go out into the mountains, my gravel bike will do just fine. And when I want to go really fast, I just take my TT bike out for a spin. So in my opinion, those are just the only two bikes you need while living in the Netherlands. In the ideal situation, I mounted aero bars on my gravel bike as well for this race, as I have seen many other riders do so in races all across the US. Unfortunately, it is worth noting that aero bars are not allowed in these UCI gravel events because the UCI applies the same rules for gravel races as for road races. Do you think the UCI should apply the same rules for gravel races as for road races? Please let me know in the comment section. One interesting thing though, while the regulation also prohibited hydration packs larger than 0.5 liters, I noticed that many riders using them, so I wonder how strictly the UCI rules were enforced. Anyway, as you can see, the riders in front of me are slightly getting closer and closer, and I almost finally managed to bridge one of the last gaps I wanted to close for this race. During the race, I wanted to highlight this part of the course, which led us through a farm. It was quite a unique experience that perfectly showcased Dutch culture, as a significant portion of the Netherlands consists of farmland, around 52%, the highest percentage in the world. The farm landscapes were beautiful, and it was very kind of the farmer to open his property for the race. Kudos to the organization for their creativity and meticulous course preparation. They did an excellent job of taking care of the entire race route. And where else will you be able to race across the land of a farmer? Now, let's talk about the exciting finale of the race. This was probably around the last few Ks and everything was going fairly well. My legs felt okay, but there were two minor hiccups. First, my Wahoo's battery died around the 100k mark, so I have no data about the finale of the race. And secondly, the muscles in the middle of my lower back were causing me some crazy pain. I've only experienced this kind of discomfort during half an Ironman race before. I'm really open to suggestions on how to train these muscles, or if anyone else had similar experience and found ways to fix it, please let me know. In the final stretch, I was riding with a group of 5 guys and a talented girl named Tessa Neefjes, last year's winner of the race, and she was riding in second position of the women when she joined our group. She started around 5 minutes behind us, so I could not imagine the power numbers she had to put in to get into our group. Our side mission was to help her finish at least a second among the women, but things took an unexpected turn when the group doing the 80k distance came flying by and some other women got into that group too. Tessa was unfortunately not able to hold on to that group, so she didn't got the podium position. After the race, she told me that she couldn't shift gears anymore at that moment, so she was basically riding a single speed. I hope she has more luck in the next race. At this point, I was feeling pretty smoked, mainly due to my back issues, but my legs were holding up relatively well. I decided it was time to break away from the group and improve my position in the ranking. Sprinting isn't exactly my strong suit, considering I'm pretty light and the guys ahead of me looked pretty strong. However, I just focused on my strength, which is putting my hands on the hoods, get as aero as possible, and that's what I did. The guy who was trying to create a gap as well makes a small turning error and I went into full gas mode. I saw that no one was in my wheel anymore, so the only thing I had to do was just bring it home. Fuck.
Oké?
Ja, gaat. Oh. Oh. Oh, fuck. Fuck my life. Just when I thought I had a chance to make a move, the last turn of the race led into an unfortunate crash. Classic, right? I brushed it off with a tear and a laugh and carried on. Just making 2 more turns and I can see the finish line already. That's just how close I was to the finish. Luckily it was I could easily go back on my bike again and I only had 1 scratch on my leg. Because the sand was really deep, which caused the crash obviously. And yeah, this is how I got across the finish line. So here a little stat overview. These stats are only from the first 3 hours and 11 minutes of the race, because after that moment my Wahoo's battery died. So I did an average watts of 255, average heart rate 169 and speed of 32 kilometers per hour. All in all, it was a beautiful race and I'm already looking forward to coming back next year to beat my time and more importantly, beat my overall position. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel and share it with your fellow gravel friends. My next race will be in Houffalize next month, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching and I hope to see you again next time. Cheers!